Hi everybody, and welcome back to the InTouch Machine Edition training video series. This is the first of several active objects videos where we're going to cover some of the active objects within InTouch Machine Edition. This course is going to let you know how to use some of those active objects. And when you're finished with this, you should understand how to use the text object, the text box object, and the button object. So let's go ahead and get started. What are we going to cover here? Just those three objects. We're going to talk a little bit about what the pound signs mean, or the hash sign means, depending on where you're at in the world. And the text box object, we're going to talk about whether or not it's input enabled. And then the button, we'll show some common uses, talk about the caption versus the command. Now the button object is really used pretty much hand in hand with the command animation, and we're going to get into more of the animations when we cover the animations videos. But let's go ahead and get started with our application. Now when we last left off in the last video, and if you haven't done the previous videos to this, I'd like you to start the screen groups video and beyond, show you how to build the architecture for this project that we're going to continue working on. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and do that now. If you have done that, or welcome back, what we're going to do now is add the ability to go to an active objects screen. So first we're going to add, excuse me, we're going to add the active objects screen. In order to do that, I'm going to open up the template screen that I had created before, and that's positioned and colored with the right sizes and locations and coloring. And I'm just going to do a save as, and I'm going to call this active objects. Now you can place spaces in your names, but just to be a little bit more web compatible later on, I would suggest against using spaces. If you need a space in there to separate words, maybe use an underscore as opposed to a space. It'll help things later on, but you don't have to. If you're just using a simple HMI type project, you can in fact put spaces in there. So I'm going to call that active objects. And now that I have that screen created and saved, I'm going to go to our navigation. Now this is a step that, or a couple of steps that we're going to do from here on out, and I'm going to give you less and less instructions as the videos go on. But the first time we do this, we're going to copy this button down. I'm going to do this, instead of using copy and paste, I'm going to hold down the control key on my keyboard. Once I have that selected, then hold down the control key and then drag a copy of this off of there. Then I'm going to go in and change the label or the caption of this button. So I'm going to go back to the button, and I have a couple of different ways to do that. I can use this back to button, or I can use this drop down and go to the button here. Either one of them will get you back to the same spot. And here I'm going to put in active objects, and I can drop down a line and say objects done on the second line. And we sized these buttons accordingly to allow us to have two lines of text there. I made them 41 pixels tall. You can see that. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and resize those for now, because if you make them much larger than that, we're going to run out of space by the end of the video series. So okay, so this is the caption. That only labels the button. That doesn't make it functional. So we're going to go then to the command animation. Now this command animation button here is the same thing as this one here. This one will take us back to the command animation, but there's already a command animation applied to this. You can see how that's highlighted. If I click on this, it will turn off the command animation on this object. If I click on this, it will take us back to the command animation that's already on this button. Alternatively, instead of this command animation or command button, I could have gone here, and that would have taken me to that same place. So just be aware that if you click on this and it's already highlighted, you're going to turn off the command animation. These are almost like check boxes. We're going to toggle whether or not that's on or off on that particular object. So here we don't want that to go to the main screen anymore, because that was a copy of that button, and I don't want to type it in or potentially mistype it in. So I'm going to navigate to this and then just use that. So now it's, if I go back to the button, it's labeled active objects, and then the command animation tells it on down, open the screen, which screen, active objects. So we're going to do that kind of two-step process or three-step process where we open up the template, we save it as a new screen name, we copy the button down, we change the caption, and then we change the screen that it goes to. We're going to do those steps many times throughout the rest of the video series. So here I can save the navigation. And now on active objects, what we're going to do in this video is we're going to cover these three, and then successive videos we're going to cover the active objects. But first, when we get going here, we're going to cover text. Now notice the tooltip that pops up when I hover my mouse over this. It says that it inserts text, and that we can use pound signs to get text data link animations in there. So we're gonna kind of build this as we go, or build on a concept. So if I just want text on this screen, notice what I did here. Let me go back and do this step by step and illustrate what I'm doing. I clicked on this text object, and that turns my cursor into a hairline cursor. Now when I click on the screen, it places the cursor on the screen, and now I can start typing. Let's say this is text. And at this point, when I hit enter, that's only text, and I can come back in and double click on that and change the caption. If I want to, I can change the alignment and the fonts and whether or not there's a text data link animation on that or not. Notice that if I go back, I'm already on the graphics tab, that the text data link animation is grayed out. The reason is we don't have any pound signs in here. Pound signs are special to use the text data link animation. So I'm going to build on that as we go. So let me close this, and I just wanted to show you that that text is just text by itself. It doesn't really have any function. I'm going to then put another one on the screen, and let's say we have a temperature set point that we want to set. SP for set point. I'm going to put a colon here. Now one way to do this is to create a completely separate text object next to this, and if I put pound signs in here, now notice that the text data link animation is available up here. So I can apply that text data link animation, and now I not only have a piece of text where I could change some of these attributes, or properties I should say, but I also have the text data link on here, and now I can put a tag in there. So maybe this is temperature SP for set point. Since I don't have that tag, I'm going to go ahead and create that. I'm going to create that as a reel, because I'm going to use that in some of the other stuff I'm going to do on the screen here. So that's a way to do that with two separate objects. Now another way to do this is to put both of those kind of in the same object. So if I do temperature SP colon, now still notice that up here I don't have access to the text data link, but as soon as I put in a pound sign, now I have access to that. So this is kind of a combination of those two. In the same caption field, I have temperature SP colon space and then some pound signs in there, and that gave me access to the text data link. Now we've done some things to make this even easier for you. If that wasn't enough, what you can do is just type in just the text that you want in here, and you don't have to type the colon or the space or the pound signs. If you go into the properties of this, so I could double click on this, or I'm going to hit Alt and Enter on my keyboard. Excuse me. Once I'm into this, I can hit this text data link button here. Now what that does is it's kind of a combination of putting the pound signs in and applying this text data link all at once. So watch what happens to this when I click on text data link. It put in the colon, a space, and 4 pound signs, and left me ready to go with the text data link animation applied. So it does several steps all in one, saving you many mouse clicks. So again, what that did is it put in the semicolon, the colon, the space, and 4 pound signs. If I go back to the text data link here, then I can put in my tag, in this case temperature SP, which I already have. And so that's kind of several different ways building on just text with text data link animation separated together, and then using that text data link button within the text object to go ahead and add that, and add the colon and the pound signs there. Let's take this piece of text and copy this over here, and I want to talk a little bit about formatting this. I can change the fonts here. So for example, I can get bold or narrow. I can change the size of the font. I can change the color of the font, let's say. And so those are some things that you can do. I can also apply a border around the outside edge of it, put a background on it. Let's say I want that background to be a little bit different color here. Maybe it's green. or orange, let's say. I'm going to make this really annoying. Let's not make it so annoying. Let's just turn this back to white. And one of the things that you have to realize, though, is the fonts in your development station might not be the same fonts that are available on the HMI that you're going to deploy this on. I'm going to download in a minute here and show you this, but what I'd like to do here is I'm going to copy this piece of text, and I'm pretty sure that there's a font that I have here on my laptop called Magneto that I don't have available on the runtime HMI. Now notice that when I did this, I just left it as the font that's 10-point size. An alternative to sizing this, instead of just picking the point size, is I can actually drag this and give it the size that I want to maybe fill to a particular space that I want. So that's another option that you can do there. So when I download this here in a minute, you're going to see that this is going to go back to some default text. I'm not sure if it's Arial or what it is, but it does go back to a default if I can't find the particular font. Another thing to be aware of is, let's say that I'm on the right edge of my screen. InTouch Machine Edition tries to prevent you from drawing objects that are, or placing objects that are off the edge of that screen. In using a text object and putting a bunch of pound signs, let's say I've got the name of something to enter, I can actually put pound signs off the edge of the screen. Now that's not really something that's very useful because I can't really get at those, but what I wanted to point out is that if you have text that you put off the edge of the screen, it will run like that. But if you then try to move it at any point in time and reposition it, it will snap back so all the way to the right edge stays inside of the viewing area or the screen area, and then you cannot position it back outside of that area. So just be aware that that's expected behavior. Now I want to talk a little bit about what is this extra little space here at the end. This extra little space is because the font that I happen to have here, in this case it's Arial font, is a multi-width font, and that multi-width font really means that the for example, the letter I is a different width than the letter W or the letter M, for example. So it's had to allocate space to be able to handle that. Now there are fonts that, for example, Courier Font is a fixed width font. So if I go ahead and make this Courier, and apparently I have a lot of fonts here. Here's Courier right here. Courier, oh, now I've scrolled right on by it. Courier is a fixed width font, and when I click on OK, you'll see that it occupies all the space within the area that I've drawn there. So if you need to really keep your width and pay attention to that, you might want to choose a fixed width font. Otherwise, it's going to have to allocate some extra space there on the end, and that's expected and understood why. So let's see, that's really all I wanted to show you on the text. When we start talking about the text data link animation, we'll talk more about that in the animations video, because I'm not going to cover that in this one. This is really only talking about the object itself. So let's move on to the text box object. Now this text box object is kind of what you might be familiar with if you've ever seen a form that you've had to fill out on a website for maybe name and address and phone number. Maybe you're purchasing something. It's meant to be similar to that. So let's kind of combine this with a text object. So here I could say temperature, set point, and now similar to how I made this text object separate from this label or this caption, now I'm going to use the text box object and place that next to here. And so you can see it's kind of got this rectangular box around it. And now here I can actually place the tag in here that I want to work with. In this case, I'm going to work with temperature SP. By default, this is input enabled. And if I uncheck input enabled, you'll see that this box kind of grays out. Hopefully you can see that in the video. It kind of grayed out. I'm going to make this a little bit more apparent in a minute. If I don't check input enabled, this tag or expression in this field gets evaluated, and that's the value that shows up here. if I do have input enabled, I can't use an expression in here. I can only put an individual tag because it's not going to be it's not going to make much sense to have an input that you type in go to an expression. It won't know where to go. So you can only use a single tag in there when you have an input enabled. Now if I keep this as temperature set point, let's say, and I have input enable on here, and I already have that tag. So let me go ahead and get my HMI ready to be downloaded to. And I'm going to download this, and I'll show you this font, and I'm going to show you how this interacts. So I'll be right back in just a second. All right, so I'm back. I have the HMI ready offline remotely. And so what I've done is I've started that up. I've started CE server, which is also known as the remote agent. You can see my IP address here is 142. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect up to this from the Home tab. And this connection covered in another video previously. So I'm going to go ahead and connect up to this. And so you can see here I'm connected. I'm going to go to the Project tab, and I was testing earlier, so what I'm going to do is make sure that I'm in my right path here. So it's ITME for InTouch Machine Edition projects in this case, and I'm going to go to ITME training. That's where my training is. I'm going to say OK, and it's warning me that this is not empty, that if I download anything it's going to overwrite or delete what's there. So I'm OK with that since I already have my project here. So I'm going to now download this project, and that should be fairly quick because there's only just a couple of screens in here. And now I'm going to kick this off and run the project. I'm going to say OK here and bring this back on screen. And there's a screen that we created previously, which is main, and now the active objects navigation button that we just added should now take us to the active objects. Well, my active objects screen isn't showing up. I wonder why, and that's because I don't think I've saved this screen yet. So I can click on OK. I'm still connected here, and now I can say save this, and it's going to prompt me if I want to download this. Had I saved that before, it would have actually downloaded that ahead of time. But you can see here that just by saving that, it already updated before I had a chance to even pull it on the screen. So I can now navigate between my main screen and my active object screen. You can see how that changes. Well, let's compare this a little bit with what we have here. So now we're getting values in for that tag, and in this case, I have a way to enter it in here. You can see the formatting for this, and you can see that this font does not exist on my HMI, therefore it defaulted to what looks maybe like an Arial type font. So also here, since that is a real tag, it's giving me some decimal points in here, so I can enter, for example, 12.3. And you can see that I'm getting those values in where I've set up that tag. Apparently on this one I didn't set that tag up. So let's talk a little bit about formatting on this text box here. If we're set to auto, if I take a look at the help system, and here I can click on the context sensitive help icon and then click here, and I'll bring up the help from off screen, and then we'll go into the screens and graphics using screen objects, active objects, text box is one way to dive into that. So here we go. Oh, it looks like we're already there maybe. If I scroll down and take a look at the formatting, the formatting shows that if the auto is set, it's going to try to set up the formatting based on this built-in scripting command called set decimal points function. That will then set the format of how you display or interact with the values there. So that's again if it's set to auto. If it's set to decimal, hex, or binary, then the format will follow what you can do with this mask here. So for example, since I have that set to auto, it's trying to use what I have set for that set decimal points function, which I haven't set up, so it's kind of freeing up everything. If I change this to decimal, and now I put in here, so for example, I put in pound pound dot pound pound, that'll set up the format for that. And now when I save my screen and download it, and then bring this back into view here, you can see that it's formatted that up for 2 decimal places, dot 2 decimal places. It also gives us the ability when it's in decimal format, and you can see here in the help system that it says that, let me get this a little bit better on screen here for you, that when it's in decimal format, the number of decimal places is determined by the position of the decimal separator in the pound sign text. In this case, I put pound pound dot pound pound. However, if you don't have enough pounds to display all the characters to the left of the decimal, it will go ahead and make sure that you see all of those. So for example, if you only have a single character as shown here, like pound dot pound pound, and you have a value of 112.64, you will see the whole 112 in there. You can alternatively set this up for hex or binary type format, or in automatic. Again, that works with that function as shown here. Alternatively to acting, well, let me show you another thing here. So I have this now set up as, where's my remote desktop here? Let's grab this back. Okay, so I have this now set up as a input enabled, and if I change this from input enabled to not input enabled, and I save my screen and download it, when I go back to my screen here, what you'll see is that is now grayed out, and I'm typing on my keyboard here, and I can't enter any more values. But I want to show you that it grayed out. In addition to that, let me move this back off screen. If I have this input enabled and I change the fonts sizes will follow suit. So for example, if I change this to a 16-point font, it will change, and I can change the color of it as well. So let's try that. So it's input enabled, and I've changed the size. I'm going to probably need a little bit more space here. And if I save that, and now when I bring this back on screen, you can see that the size and the color has changed. But if I make this so it's not input enabled, that grays that text box out. And when I save this, this is expected behavior. So what it's doing is it's graying that box out. Therefore, I'm seeing the font in a grayed out color, or black, and not the color. I still see the size, and I still see the number, and I could read that. If one of these was entry, I could change that. What's another way that I could change this? If I was remotely connected, so what I'm going to do is use my database spy here, and I'm going to connect up to this remotely. And so this is, let me go ahead and clear all these lines out of here. Delete. So this is my remote connection to my runtime. Now I'm going to right click on this and say always on top, so that when I type or when I bring in my remote desktop, it stays on top of that. So for example, this is temperature. Let me go back in here. SP. You can see that the value is 12.30. So now I can type in, let's say 45.67, and you can see that even though it's grayed out, it's not input enabled, so I can't type in here. It still does update along with the numbers. So alternatively, let's take a look at another way that this function or this object can be used. This text box active object can be used. Let me put another one of these on the screen. And what we're going to do now, instead of displaying like a single line of value, this might be for like if you had a form that you wanted to enter like this, a temperature or maybe a name or an address, like on a web type form, that might be one thing. But what if you had comments or wanted to be able to put more information in here? This also works with strings. So here I can put in, let's say, a tag that I have called info. And I don't have a tag called info yet, so we're going to just hit enter. Info doesn't exist, and so I'm going to make that a string. Click on OK. And now what I'll do is I will use my database spy to use info. So I'll go back here. Well, I haven't saved that yet, or downloaded it yet, so it doesn't know about info yet. So I'll do that in just a second. I'll put a value in there, but that's why it's not there, is because I haven't downloaded this yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and Probably the best thing to do is, since it doesn't know about it, let me stop the project from running on the runtime and re-download it. So now it'll get all the tags, database changes. That info tag should now be there. And then, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and run that. And off screen, I'll bring that back in here, and you'll see it's going to start up. So now I don't have any text in there yet, but now the database spy should be able to query that remotely and see info in here. Let's see if that shows up. There it is. And so now in here I should be able to put this is text, and that shows up in that form. Now let's go ahead and resize this. Move this off screen. Move this off screen. If I resize this, and so it won't be able to display the full width of that text, and I go ahead and save and download. Now you can see what's happened is it's chopped off that text. Well, there's a way to fix that, and that's by using this feature here called multi-line. That will allow multiple lines to be displayed. If you want to keep a full line on an individual line, then you would just do that and not choose word wrap. If I choose word wrap, what will happen is it will automatically allow, if it runs off the edge, it will automatically wrap it around to the next line. So that's your choice on how you want to use that. Now, if I want to display a certain amount of text, in this case info is just a little bit of text. So let's say that I want to put a bunch more in here. So this is text, this is more, and still more. InTouch Machine Edition tag can hold 1024 characters. Well, you can see here that I've got probably more text than will fit in that object. And if I was to alter that size of that object again, let me go ahead and change this out here a little bit. Now let's make it even longer. And if I save that and download, now notice that you can disable this message in the preferences. I'll probably do that in a little while just to show you. But once I've done that, let's see, I can bring this back up here. And so this is the text, and that will, and I could put enough text in there to be 1024 characters, which is roughly a full page of written text. Well, alternatively, instead of having all of my text in a single tag, this will work with an array type tag. Oh, before I show you that though, I want to show you one more thing. I can mask or limit this to a certain number of characters. Let's say that I want to only have this show 5 characters. So for whatever reason, if you want to mask out and stop that thing from showing all the characters, and you just want to show the first 5, then you can just put a number in here of the number of characters up to 1024. And if I save this, and now when I show this, what it's going to show you is just the first 5 characters. So it's THIS and the space that's after it is all that's there. So that's one option. Let me move this off the screen. Let me take that 5 out of there. By the way, the minimum and the maximum is for when you have input enabled in there. And so that'll keep you within those minimums and maximums. And then disable will turn that off if you want the input enabled to be turned off and you want to put a tag in there to change that on the fly. Now, as I started to mention before, is I can put an array type tag in here. So instead of using info, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new tag. So let's go here back to global. I'll go to project tags, and instead of info, I'm going to use the full word information. And I'm going to make this an array, and I'm going to make this 4 elements. So it's indexes 0, 1, 2, and 3. So this is the maximum element number. So it's really 4 an array of 4, if you remember from our tags video. And now what I can do is come in here, and now I'm going to change this from the info tag to the INFO RMATION. So now, even though that's an array tag, I'm just going to specify this without any index and I think I could even specify the first index. I'll try that in just a second. But if I do it this way, now when I save this and download, actually I should probably stop it and download my whole project because I updated the database so that I added that information tag. Now when I run it, what we're going to see here is, I'm going to pull this back on screen, that now I have multiple lines of text in here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my database spy back into view. I'm going to change this to be info, let's see, so that's information, sorry, and then index 0. And there's currently no value, so I'm going to put this is line 0. And then information, line 1. Well, guess what? I just realized I didn't do is I made those integers. I should have made those strings. So let's go ahead and move this off the edge of the screen here. Move this off. And, oops, and go back and change that. So I'm going to go back into my datasheet view, close this, and I should have made this a string. That was my fault. Apologize for that. I'll save that, stop this, and re-download this so it gets the database update. And now I'll download, sorry, I just did that, and I'll rerun this. Fortunately, that's a pretty quick operation, so that only took a second or so. Go back here, and now I want to come back in here. Since I changed that tag, it showed bad quality there. So this is line 0. So now you should be able to see that. This is line 1 with more text, and so on and so forth. And I can copy this, change this to be 2, so on and so forth. Here is another line. And now, because that I think I left that as input enabled, I can even go back and change this. So now line 1 is changed, and now you can see that here. Let's make sure that we spelled changed correctly. So there we go. So now you can see how it acts as a field that we can input more than just one tag into. This works with arrays. So either way, you can use this as a single line with either numeric or alphanumeric entry if it's a string type tag, or you can go to kind of a larger field like a comment type field where you can put more than one line in. You can have that go to a single tag or an array of tags. So that's how that object works. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to cover on that. Doesn't look like it. So now let's move along to the button object here. So let's now put this button object on the screen, and by default the button object goes in a style called 3D Sharp, and we have alternative styles or several other styles. So I'm going to copy that over by holding down my control key and change this to 3D Soft, and it changes the bevel on that a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is drag a copy over here and change this to the standard type button, and that might be something you're a little bit more familiar with. So again, as I mentioned in the original agenda for this video, that buttons are more commonly used with commands, and I'm not going to really go into the command animation here. We'll cover that in the animations video, but want to talk a little bit about the fact that you can change the fonts and the colors on here. We're even going to put an image on here, and we can align the text, so on and so forth. But the image is probably one of the neatest things about this. So if I have, let's say I have a button that I'm going to call maintenance. So I'm going to put this on here, and now what I did before I started this video is I went into my training project folder, and in the web subfolder I added a bitmap that's just a little screwdriver and a wrench. Now this happens to be a bitmap. It's like 30 some odd pixels, and so now when I go to images And here I can just navigate to my screens, my web subfolder here, and say open. Now it points to that maintenance.bmp, and now notice that it's above the text. So now that has placed that icon above the text. Now I could resize this and get that on there and see that. But what I more commonly like to do, my preference is to move it to the left of the text. Now what has happened is it doesn't have enough space to display all that on the screen. So let's enlarge this a little bit here, and let's talk about some of the formatting of this. So if I make this even slightly larger here so we can understand what's going on. So if I set this offset up, let's say I put 20 pixels in here, that will set that 20 pixels from the where the text is located. So for example, if I align the text to the upper right, you can see that that image follows the edge of that text there. And so at least that gives you some ideas of some different ways that you can position this and format this and size this accordingly. Now if you were to change that image where it is located on the drive, it will change that image. So just be aware of that. And so there's some different things that you can do if you want to make some nice iconic type menu structures and things of that nature. Let's see, we'll talk a little bit about, for example, if I put in here, instead of maintenance, if I put in call maintenance, let's abbreviate that, you can see that that all fits on that button. But if I make this button a little bit smaller, what happens is, in this case, the picture falls off the edge, but it doesn't wrap that text. If I go here under Advanced and tell it, I should have wrapped that text, why didn't it? Okay, so now I have call maintenance in here, and if I adjust the size of this, it will wrap that text. So you can say, oh, that's because I'm wrapped here on the, or formatted to the right edge. If I make this center again, and now I size this, it will wrap that accordingly. So that's why that didn't work. Okay, so there's, let's see, a few different things there. Now, another thing that we can show here is, let's say maybe on the button, I wanted to have a value shown. Let's say value. I don't have a tag called value, but I'm going to make one here in a second. Let's in fact give ourselves a way to enter, or maybe this is a command animation here, and maybe it toggles. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the command animation, but I'll toggle a tag called value. That doesn't exist. I'm just going to make it an integer. And what I want to show you is this text on this in this caption field here. So let's go back to the button. This text doesn't do anything. That just labels the button. The command animation here is what's doing the work. This is doing the toggling of the value tag on down. But what we can do is we can actually build status into this. So let's see. If I want to show the value of this, what we're going to do is put in here curly brackets and then show any tag. It doesn't have to be the value tag. It could be any tag. So here I could put value here. And now when I save this, and let me save this, and it looks like my HMI has gone offline because it goes offline every once in a while. But so now So now let me reconnect up with my HMI, and I'll go set that up again, and then we will download this and get things going here. Okay, I'm back. I've got the HMI back online. Turns out that I have a demo HMI, and it reboots every once in a while on purpose. It's because it's a demo. So let's bring this back in here. Actually, as soon as I do this, let me download to it and then rerun this. And then I'll bring in my set of screens here. Click on Active Objects, and now you can see that that is here. And now when I click on this value, you can see that it shows me the actual value of the tag called value. So I'm toggling this. So that's a nice alternative to being able to show status rather than maybe a separate piece of text. I can do it right built into that same button. And I could combine all three of these, an image with the text with the value on there. So lots of different things here. So let's do one more quick step. Let's go back to here, and what I want to show you is the transparent. If this is a bitmap, and you can't do this with JPEGs or other file types, it only works with a bitmap, you can choose the color that you want to be transparent. So right now I have this white rectangle around the outside edge of that. If I choose white is the transparent color, you can see that that white goes away. And so you can make that transparent, and we'll talk more about that when we talk about images and various places you can use images in InTouch Machine Edition. So for now, that's all I wanted to show you and talk about with the first three active objects, which is the text box, and the button. Look forward to other videos here where we cover more of the other active objects. And let's see here. Let's go ahead and show you that you have other online resources to get to. There's some links here on the screen. I'd like to thank you for attending. Please join us for the remaining videos, and hopefully you had some fun and learned something. Thanks, and have a great day.